The United Auto Workers are on strike right now against the big three, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. And it's looking like we're just kind of in the big summer, although I guess, is it fall now, of strikes. And this one really could change everything. I think they're pushing for a 4-day work week, which, if they get that could see some major movement nationwide toward a 4-day work week, which, oh, that would be great. But I say all this not to get too deep into the UAW strike, because I haven't looked too deeply into it myself. In fact, I just restarted this intro because I didn't even know who the big three were. But I just wanted to give a little bit of an intro on the UAW because they've done something pretty funny today, actually. UAW files labor complaint against Senator Tim Scott for saying you strike, you're fired. Telling workers they'll be fired for striking is violating federal labor law, and that's not something becoming of a senator. After invoking the legacy of Ronald Reagan to suggest that striking United Auto Workers members should be fired for demanding higher wages, Senator Tim Scott may soon find himself before the National Labor Relations Board. On Thursday, Shawn Fain, the president of UAW, filed a complaint claiming that Scott's utterance violated federal labor law. Under the National Labor Relations Act, or NLRA, anyone can file a charge against an employer even if they do not work for that employer. And because he is running for president, he has a campaign, and campaigns are organized as businesses, which means that Tim Scott, as the owner and operator of a business of campaigning for president, has signaled that if you strike, you're fired. The complaint accuses Scott of violating the section of the NLRA that lays out employees' rights to participate in labor actions. Within the past 6 months, the employer has interfered with, restrained, or coerced employees in the exercise of the rights guaranteed in Section 7 of the Act. On Monday, September 18th, 2023, Tim Scott threatened employees with adverse consequences if they engage in protected, concerted activity by publicly responding to a question about striking workers as follows: "You strike, you're fired." The complaint was filed against Scott in his capacity as a representative for Tim Scott for America. In addition to being a senator representing the state of South Carolina, Scott is running for president, making him an employer as well. The premise of the complaint is that Scott's comments could be construed as a direct threat against his campaign staffers, whose right to strike is enshrined in federal law. Scott's comments appear to violate these laws, said Benjamin Sachs, a professor of labor law at Harvard University. The statement is direct as "if you strike, you're fired" and is textbook unfair labor practice language because workers can't be fired for striking, Sachs told The Intercept. If a reasonable employee could interpret the statement as "if I strike, I'm fired," then it is without a doubt an unfair labor practice violation. Ooh, I love it. You love to see it. And especially against Republicans. You'll love to see that happen against Republicans. Sachs added that the National Labor Relations Board would likely rule that Scott must cease and desist from making similar comments and also inform employees of his violation in writing. In some cases, and this NLRB General Counsel seems more amenable to this, the employer is compelled to read their violation out loud or communicate it verbally to their employees, Sachs said, referring to the NLRB's top lawyer, Jennifer Abruzzo. Scott did not immediately respond to The Intercept's request for comment. He made his remarks on Monday after he was asked at a campaign event about whether he would pick a side in the UAW's ongoing strike against the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. In response to the question, Scott referenced Reagan's 1981 decision to fire over 10,000 striking air traffic controllers. "I think Ronald Reagan gave us a great example when federal employees decided they were going to strike," Scott said. "You strike, you're fired. Simple concept to me, to the extent that we can use that once again." Demon. Literal demon. Absolute demon. Telling workers they'll be fired for striking is violating federal labor law, and that's not something becoming of a senator, Sachs said. Scott went on to denigrate the UAW's 150,000 workers. That is a huge strike. Oh my God. Whose demands include a pay increase, the elimination of tiered pay scales, and the restoration of strong benefits. The other things that are really important in that deal is that they want more money working fewer hours. They want more benefits working fewer days. In America, that doesn't make sense, the senator says. That's not common sense. No, that sounds like something that a Republican would say. Common sense is something that Republicans like to say a lot because it doesn't have to have like a definitive definition, right? It's common sense because it feels right. It's common sense because, well, that's the way we've always done it. It's common sense because it's directly intuitive. But in reality, things don't operate that way. If you look at like the higher level sciences, if you look at, say, things like quantum mechanics and particle physics, things don't operate on an intuitive level. You actually have to do a lot of research to find out the actual truth of how reality works. And the same goes in things like economics. Okay? What sounds like a truism, what sounds like a reasonable thing for your average person to believe, what sounds like common sense may not actually be common sense. When you hear, oh, well, if people are working less, well, that's going to hurt the economy. That you don't get paid more for working less. But if people are working nonstop and they don't have any opportunity for leisure and they don't have spending money for that leisure time, well, then they can't go out and spend that money at other businesses. But if they're working less hours, they have more time to themselves and more money, they can go and spread that money around. When rich people get more money, they hoard it in an offshore account, the Caymans, right? But when poor people get more money, they spend it immediately, which circulates it around and goes to other poorer people who then spend it immediately and keeps it in circulation. So wanting more benefits, working fewer days, that does make sense. That actually helps boost the economy. The UAW strike started last week after the union's contracts expired on Thursday night. 3 auto plants have gone on strike so far, with more slated to join on Friday as the big 3 auto manufacturers continue to refuse to meet workers' demands. In an interview with Status Quo on Wednesday, that's a cool name, Status Quo, Fain told reporters that the strike is about more than just the auto workers' current contract negotiations, it's also about pushing the boundaries of the possible. When I hear the phrase live to fight another day, I want to literally beat the shit out of somebody, Fain said. It would drive me up a wall when I would hear a later say live another day. Another day came and went over and over and no one fought. This is our time. We call this our generation defining moment. This is it. The sky has to be the limit. Yes. As my channel is primarily focused on entertainment news, I don't know how much of the UAW strike I'm going to be covering, but it is a big strike going on, and I felt seeing its intersection with the current Republican primary slate, I definitely wanted to bring attention to this, because if a presidential candidate can get in legal trouble for anti-union talking points, that's great, and you love to see it. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.